my sheet over. All right, so what we're going to do, and I'll get a note when if we need to stop for the purposes of recharging the camera battery, is we're just going to go through these questions that were given by delegates in advance, and then once that is over, the floor will be opened up to those attending here to ask live questions. And we will go ahead and start with our first question. Good point, thank you. We've had a delegate ask for introductions. Would each of you please, from left to right, stand and just give about a 1-minute introduction. My left.
Can you hear me now? Yes. My name is Lehi. I'm running for vice chair. I live in Washington County, in St. George, if you will. That's how we pronounce it down there. It's a lovely place to live. At one time I was the Weber County chair a long, long time ago, and I enjoyed that, and I think I did a fairly good job. But anyway, I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself and perform. I used to be a performer on television. I had a television show, and I interviewed some of the people you may have heard of. Maybe you haven't heard of Orrin Hatch, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, so I've been around a little bit. Thank you very much. I have a wife, children. My wife's here in the audience. I drug her here over her dead body, but thanks, Paula, for being here.
Well, thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Aaron Starks. I am also a candidate running for vice chair here, and excited to be with you. I've been involved in the party in various capacities over the past 12 years as a state delegate, as a county delegate. I've run campaigns. I've worked in Washington, D.C. I am married to a beautiful wife who has blessed us with 2 fabulous children. My daughter Maya was born in Tokyo, Japan. We moved back a couple of years ago. I'm the general manager of our business in Asia for Franklin Covey. Many of you will know our company. And so running right now because I believe the party needs some fresh new perspective and some sound management. I'm grateful to you delegates for making everything possible within the party, and have enjoyed getting to know you this evening. Thank you.
My name is Kara Berkland. I'm also running for vice chair of the state party. I have 6 kids. I'm a preschool teacher in my spare time, and I referee high school basketball. I have been involved in the party for probably about 8-9 years ago. I went to my first caucus meeting about roughly 9 years ago. Since then, I have been a county, state, and national delegate. I've served on the state central committee. I was a county chair for several years, and I just have an intense desire to see the party move forward so that we can protect our freedoms and that our platform can be spread throughout the state.
My name's Phil Wright. I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Andrew, for putting this together. This is great. And I know every one of these people personally. They are good people. It is not easy to run for office. It is really hard. And sometimes good people have to deal with not so good people. So thank you for being here. And I would encourage you, when you talk to other delegates next Saturday, encourage them to be thoughtful and kind to those people who are running. It's not an easy thing to do. My name's Phil Wright. I've been involved in the party for about 20 years. I've had the opportunity in the last 10 years to serve in a lot of party leadership positions. I was, a few years ago, the vice chair, then the chair of Davis County. I was also, 2 years ago, I was the vice chair of the state party. And in 2016, I was elected to be a national delegate. And then that group of 40 national delegates from our state elected me to be the chair of our national delegation to the RNC convention. So I've had a tremendous amount of experience in party leadership. I believe I'm the only candidate running for state party chair who has that type of leadership experience. I value our party. I value our caucus system. It is what has brought you here today. I have spent the last 6 years traveling the state to all 29 counties, many of them on numerous occasions, promoting our caucus convention system, and more importantly, promoting our platform, because that is what unites us as Republicans. That's the glue that holds us together. And if I'm elected state party chair, that will be my primary focus, promoting the platform. Because when we promote the platform, we bring more people in, we energize the base, we increase our fundraising, and we get more good candidates elected who also support our platform. So thanks again for being here tonight.
My name is Sylvia Mira-Fisk, and I am honored to be here with you. It always gives me great hope and encouragement to see the dedication that each of us gives of our time and talents when we serve each other, serve our country, serve our state. I am from Utah. I was born and raised in Sandy, Utah. And my husband and I are the parents of 11 children and 22 grandchildren. So I'm not afraid of hard work, and I'm not afraid of a challenge. And it has definitely been an experience. And I have made wonderful friends. There will be times of disagreement and opposition, but I have confidence that we can work through that. And my husband and I are business owners. We recently were working part-time for the Utah Jazz, so it was a little sad last week when we did not quite get through the playoffs, but we're dedicated, loyal fans. Thank you.
My name is Chadwick Fairbanks, and I run a small consultancy firm out of Park City. Recently relocated up there last year. I think I'm one of 9 or 10 Republicans up there, so it's an interesting place. But I originally strategically relocated my family here in 2012 from the Chicago area. It's a horrible, wretched place ran by Democrats. And, you know, I first experienced the wonderful state of Utah in 2010 here on some military training, spent a lot of time in the military intelligence field. I also worked for the National Security Agency out on the East Coast. So I've had a lot of leadership experience and training, and I've got to see how the federal government works up close. And that's what has inspired me to get more politically active now that I've relocated here to Utah. I think Utah is an excellent place just for good old-fashioned American values and republicanism. And part of the reason why I'm running for state party chair is I think the Utah GOP needs to start pumping out national leaders that can really fix the problems we're having on a national scale in terms of some of the problems facing the Republic. So last year, I've been part of the state executive committee and the state central committee, so I've been close to the fight. I've been in the meetings and in the trenches, and I actually think I'm the best candidate for the job because I'm the most neutral. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm a relative newcomer to Utah politics. I've ran for U.S. Congress a few times up in District 1, and so this is just kind of a natural migration, but I really think that Utah GOP can set the country on the right track, and that's why I want to lead it out of where it's at now so we can get to success and victory. Thanks.
I guess I have my own microphone. I didn't realize I should have passed it down. I'm Lisa Shepard. I'm your current state party secretary, and I love this venue and I love this county because this is my home area. And when you go to convention on Saturday, that is my school. I've taught there and I've been a student there. My children have been there. And 3 years ago, 2 of my sons and I graduated together. I had a bachelor's, they're getting associates. So that's kind of fun. And it was political science with an emphasis on public law, and constitutional studies was my minor, and then I have a business degree as well. So a few things that I want to say. People are saying, why are you running again? Well, I want to run again because we're coming up to a presidential year, and I think it's important to have some consistency, to have a secretary who has the time and devotion to be able to do the duties of the secretary. Now, the duties of the secretary are not some things that you see at the convention. The secretary only is the secretary of the convention. The convention committee handles other things. For instance, registration tables, the credentialing, and all those fun things like that. So I just went blank on what I was going to say. But let me go back to the experience and devotion. I don't think you're going to find anybody in this, maybe even possibly in this state, I could be wrong, forgive me if there's somebody there, that has better attendance than I have. So I've been involved for 27 years. And in the 27 years that I've been involved to meetings that I know about, been invited to, and as part of my responsibility, I have been to every single one of them. So I've counted out at least 44 in a row state central committee meetings when I was a member. And I can't even tell you how many executive committee meetings, and those I haven't jotted down, but I'm not going to let down. So those are some things about me. You know I know the history. I've also read every set of minutes that I could get my hands on, all the way back to 1993 when we organized as a state party. I read every set of minutes. I've calculated out what our state central committee average attendance is. By the way, it's 89, just so you know. So my pride in my secretary's roster and in the detail that you're going to get in the minutes and in the roster. So I'm going to send an email out tonight, and you should get that. And go check out, or just Google it, secretary's roster. And you can put my name by there, and it will come up in a Google search. I have 6 children. They're all adults. And there's one thing that's kind of fun. So years ago, I started in this process. And about the same time, I was about 31 years old. It's been a couple years ago. About 31 years old. I think I was actually about 27. And my daughter is 31. And I was a precinct chair at 31. And she's a precinct chair at 31. Now, how cool is that? And that's what I brought up. I brought children to be involved. I didn't even know she was going to run. She called me and said, Mom, I'm going to run for chair. I was like, good luck. That was pretty fun. So just a couple of quick things about me. I stand tall in difficult situations. And people know that about me. They know I don't shrink away from difficult service, difficult decisions, being put on difficult committees, even under political pressure. You know you're going to get solid and fair from me. Those are some things about me. And one thing I want to tell you is that I understand how, and I will continue to support the party platform, the Constitution, and the bylaws. And I'll work to ensure fair and transparent elections within the party. And I think that's really important, that you have a secretary that knows the process, knows the role going forward, and has great relationships across the state. Thank you.
Not to sound partial, but shout out to all the veterans in the room. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is just simply same order. We're going to start with the first question from Christelle S. from Pleasant Grove 4. I'm on the wrong side of my sheet here. Apologies about that. Claude Richards from Orem 6. And I was surprised at how often I got this question, so I decided to go ahead and include it. What is your position on an Article 5 convention for the proposing of amendments to the Constitution? And what is the state party's role if the convention is called? That's the idea.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you guys are saying. Yeah, let's do that.
Way to get out of that one, Lane. Will you repeat the question one more time?
Question is, what is your position on an Article 5 convention for the proposing of amendments? And what is the state party's role if that convention is called? We've been asked for a quick raise of hands if the candidates favor or oppose, so if you favor it, just raise your hand. So Article 5 in the United States Constitution is how to propose amendments to the Constitution, and there's 2 ways to do that. The first is Congress, through a 2/3 vote of both chambers, can propose an amendment, and then 3/4 of the states have to ratify that amendment for it to take effect. The other method is for 2/3 of the state legislatures to apply to Congress to call a convention, and then delegates are sent to a convention, and that convention can propose amendments the same as Congress. and the three-fourths ratification process afterwards is the same.
Well, I can't argue with the Constitution or the way that we currently handle that, and I feel like this question is not very relevant for state party candidates who are trying to make a difference in the state of Utah. I will say that it's these kinds of questions that are drawing people away from our party because they don't want to come to state conventions and hear about these questions for hours on end. And so that's my response to that question.
So I personally don't favor a constitutional convention. That's just me right now at this time in our nation. As far as the state's party's role in that, I'm going to be honest, I don't see us having a massive role in that. That would be something that is held up to our leaders. I think the state party could do a better job at communicating our wishes and desires with our representatives, whether it's congressional, House, U.S. Senate. But as far as our role, I think other than communicating our thoughts, as everybody should as delegates, I don't see the role of the state party. At least I haven't been privy to that role. But I'm not in favor of a constitutional convention at this time.
This is not the question I expected to start with. I remember sitting in the audience many months ago when there was a debate among the candidates running for the U.S. Senate, and this question came up. Half of the audience was for it, half of the audience was against it, and I thought to myself, I am so glad I don't have to be answering that question. And here I am today. Although I support our Constitution, I think there's a big difference between the men who gave us our Constitution at the hand of Providence versus the men and women who are in our legislatures throughout our country today who are proposing partial birth abortion and raising our taxes, destroying our economy, turning us into a socialized nation. Do I trust those men and women to fiddle with our Constitution? You know, the last time we had a group of people fiddle with our Constitution, they came from 12 of the 13 colonies, and they had one objective, and that was to fix the constitutional, Articles of Confederation, thank you. And what did they give us instead? A brand new Constitution. Now that benefited all of us. That was great. When I hear that, oh, there's only one thing or two, or some, no, there's only 3 things they can do, I just think back to 1787. I truly don't trust the morale and the morals, the lack of morals in our legislatures throughout the country to start fiddling with our Constitution. So although I think our founding fathers, they understood the need for something like this, I think what we should do instead is hold our elected officials accountable so that when they go to Washington, D.C., they vote for a balanced budget. When they go to Washington, D.C., they vote to uphold our Constitution. That's how we solve these problems, not by fiddling with our Constitution.
I'm not afraid of answering that question. No, I do not support it. There's nothing wrong with our Constitution. If we spend as much time working on what we have as a Constitution as trying to change it, we would see the benefits. That's it.
I will say the question is somewhat relevant to the state party chairs. As party chair, we become de facto members of the RNC, and we will travel to RNC meetings and discuss national political issues along with our Utah committee man and committee woman. So I actually think the question is somewhat relevant. I'm actually against an Article 5 convention. Same reason for the most part that Phil is. I mean, I'll just be reparroting everything. Our leaders in Washington don't follow the Constitution as it stands now. So calling a convention, I think, would be a huge disaster, and it would, allow nefarious people with malevolent intentions to permanently alter the Constitution. And I think it was well designed at the time by the founders, and I think if we would follow that original charter the way it was, I mean, it's already been amended. We have a 16th Amendment with direct taxation through the Internal Revenue Bureau. That's not something the founders gave us. We have direct election of senators. That's Amendment 17. We've actually fiddled with it enough, and we've actually made it worse than it was. So an Article 5 convention at this point, with the federal government as conquered as it is by deep state federal bureaucrats, is a horrible idea. Horrible.
So I don't really think this is relevant to the role of the secretary. Okay, I'll be careful what I say. I don't think that it is relevant to the role of the secretary. And the reason why is because the secretary serves at the direction of the state central committee, but yet elected by the delegates, the state delegates. And so for me, I would never, as a secretary, I would never be the spokesperson for the party, as a chair candidate would, or possibly vice chair might step into that role. So it wouldn't really matter what I think. In my personal opinion is I'm not in favor of that at this point in time, and I'd have to really be convinced of the necessary reasons to ever go that direction. So for me, I'm not. I do think delegates do need to talk to their legislators and let them know what they think about it, because that's what really matters. It doesn't matter what your party secretary thinks about any of these issues. That's where you need to go, and that's where you have the voice and the power, is with your elected officials.
Is it my turn? I have one word to say to all these people. Amen.
Okay, the next question is from Gary Lehi of West Jordan 57. Colorado and Nevada are both caucus states. How do you feel about the state of our caucus convention system here in Utah? And how can we use it to avoid the bluing that has happened to Colorado and Nevada?
Well, thank you, Gary. I'm a big fan of the caucus convention system. My first exposure to the state party was at a mock caucus, and then the next one was a caucus meeting when I heard the platform read, and that's when I realized this is the party for me. So I'm a huge fan of it, but I think it needs some help. It needs some revitalizing. Years ago, when I was running for a state delegate, when you became a state delegate and you had your party nominee, that's who you knocked doors for. That's who you pounded signs in the ground for. We got our nominee, we got out there, and we got to work for them. That gave the candidates somebody to go to, their grassroots, to help them build up. Our party caucus system doesn't function that way as much anymore. We've lost a lot of the training that used to happen in our party. Delegates don't know what they should do once they get elected and once we have a nominee. Precinct chairs don't know how to run a caucus meeting effectively because no one's training them. So I want to see it survive, because I do fear, if you read the blueprint about what happened in Colorado and how it flipped from a red state to a blue state, you should be worried and concerned, and you should want to see your caucus convention system be as successful as possible, because that is how we're going to keep elected representatives coming to our party and people coming to our parties, because they're going to realize, I have a place in the caucus. I go that night, they hear me, I get elected, or I don't. If I don't run, I don't get elected, but I support who gets elected. And then I go out there and I get behind my candidates, and candidates will have a buy-in. They'll know, hey, if I go through the caucus route, they're going to be behind me. Because right now, if you gather signatures, your signature gatherers are behind you. They don't knock on doors to hand out flyers for you like Republicans can. That's my thoughts.
I'm a California transplant. I moved here, my wife and I moved our family here in '97, and I neglected to mention we raised 7 kids and have 11 grandkids. So my wife is homesick, or she'd be here. Being a California transplant, I came from a state that the only representation was the stuff you would buy with money. If you had a lot of money or name recognition, then your vote counted. You actually could meet people who were running for governor or for the legislature, or for the U.S. Senate or the House. If you were the common person, like you and me, you never met those people. So I come to Utah in '97, and I'm talking to my neighbors, and they're all talking about, oh yeah, we were with the governor last week. You were with the governor last week? It was just mind-boggling to me. At the grassroots caucus system that Utah has, by the way, it's very different in Colorado and Nevada. Our system is truly grassroots that starts on the neighborhood level. There's nothing like it in the entire country. And the sad part is, most of our states started with this same type of system. The caucus system, the word caucus came from the Issaquah Indians back at the time of Benjamin Franklin. They all caucused. They understood grassroots level and what it meant. Utah has the most unique caucus system because it mirrors our Republican form of government, representation of the individual. So our caucus system is great. There's no way you can look at all the accolades the state of Utah has received in the last decade and ignore the fact that those accolades are the direct result of the process we use to vet and choose our candidates. Because while other states are declining, our state is increasing because we're able to vet people before we cast our vote for them. As far as the condition of our caucus system, we all know that it's been attacked viciously since 2013 when Count My Vote proposed a ballot initiative that would completely eliminate our caucus system. And a lot of people have been disparaged over that throughout the state. A lot of people have said, why bother? Why should I become a delegate if people can just get on the signature path and go directly to the primary? Why should I spend all of my time vetting candidates if my voice doesn't count anyway? There are things we've tweaked with our caucus system to make it better, and there are more things we can do. One of the things I'm proposing is that we use electronic check-in for our caucus night. That would make things happen much faster. We would have instant information to go to our counties and the state on who actually attended. And the technology's there, it just needs to be utilized. A few years ago on the State Central Committee, we passed a resolution to improve the caucus system. We allowed people to have what we call an absentee voting ballot, where if members of your family cannot attend, they can actually fill out a ballot if they want to nominate someone, and they can actually vote for that person. They accompany that ballot with their identification in a sealed envelope. There's something else that we propose that we've never done, and that's creating a web portal for every precinct. Again, we have the technology, we just haven't used it. With a web portal, people who cannot attend could actually get online, nominate the people they would like or nominate themselves, and they can participate without actually being there. And the third thing that I would propose is that we do something very radical. I'm glad you're all sitting down. Let's change our caucus to a Saturday. Because if we change it to a Saturday, it overcomes the problems I hear from so many people that I'm working or I can't get a babysitter. It's a Tuesday night. I can't get there in time because my work is over at 5 and I don't want to stand. Let's make our caucus day a Saturday. Let's make it more inviting so people can attend and be involved. If we promote our caucus system, kind of like what Kara said, if candidates understand the value of having a delegate endorsement, even those taking the signature path will still have the desire to go the caucus system. I'm sorry, one last thing. I spoke to Mitt Romney when he decided to run, and I said, Governor, all I ask, I know you're going to use the signature path, all I ask is that you also go through the convention. Because if you do that, you validate the thousands of citizens who've been elected as delegates, and you validate the hundreds of thousands of Utahns who elected those delegates. And he said, Phil, I have every intention of doing that, and he did. I believe we can get all of our candidates to go through the caucus system, and eventually we can overcome what SB 54 has given us, and it will be, again, the preferred method that our candidates choose to get nominated.
During the last presidential election, my son and I would watch the results of every state as they went through their primaries, and the states that had their caucus conventions raised some concerns from my son. So that was what got us interested in the differences and the mistakes that were being made, how there was a tendency to have cheating done. And I think that as an example, that will be the best thing to encourage good people to run for office. It is holding us back from wanting to serve our communities. We're so afraid of the results because of the tendency to cheat or the corruption. And this is concerning. I think that we need to make sure that it is transparent, that the way the caucus is run is available to everyone. We need to educate the young people. We need to educate the regular citizen that doesn't want to go to caucus. Encourage them. Many of my neighbors don't want to go to caucus because they think that it's something that's not important. Oh, it's something that Sylvia's going to do. We'll just wait till she comes home. and then we'll ask her. I want my neighbors to come with me. And when they hear from us, the process, it comes first with education. We need to know because most Republicans don't know what that is. And it starts with educating how the process goes.
So this caucus question / conundrum, I think it's a good bellwether for problems we're facing as a nation. I mean, we've become a spectator nation, right? Everybody's fat on the couch eating Doritos, watching Game of Thrones, right? Nobody's living life. Everybody's just watching fake pseudo fantasy life on the digital screen. And the caucus convention system, this is why I love Utah. This is why I've come here. This is why I'm getting active. Because Phil mentioned 1787 a while ago. Well, that was the United States Constitution Convention, right? Where delegates went and ratified, well, they debated, right? The different merits of federalism, and we're going to have strong central government, a decentralized government. Anyways, it was delegates making the decisions and ratifying the Constitution. We have an electoral college, which is a system of delegates that go to, essentially elect the president. And so the caucus convention system here in Utah is a key piece of republicanism in general, and it's something that we need to protect, something that we need to keep. But it's super important because it requires participation. It keeps the citizens who are the real stakeholders. I mean, we're supposed to be a government of people, by the people, for the people. We, the people, need to be participating in our self-governance, and that requires participation. And the caucus system, the caucus convention system, helps us stay, participatory. And we got to call a spade a spade. Obviously, SB 54 has weakened the caucus convention system, which is not a good thing. And really, the only answer now, because that is the law. So the answer to strengthening the caucus system is literally all of you. It's the grassroots that are going to fix this now. So going forward, it's the grassroots bugging your elected leaders to change the law if you don't like the law, and coming out to vote. And when your party leaders call on you to come out and come to caucus night or come to other events, to go out and get the word out, you all have to take ownership in that now, because it's the grassroots that is going to strengthen the caucus and undo the damage of SB 54.
This is one case where I would say the end justifies the means, so we'll back up. The whole reason that we have a caucus process is to nominate candidates who share our values and promote our platform. The way that we do that best, in my opinion, is when we have the opportunity to sit together and stand together like we've been doing tonight, and we can ask tough questions of each other pertaining to whatever issues it is that we need to discuss, like tonight, party office. So I think that as being a precinct chair as well, I am a precinct chair, I think the best things that we can do is to go through our neighborhood and promote that platform. When you promote that platform and you tell people what the caucus is, then they're going to want to come. They're going to understand the process. I agree we need to tweak. We've been trying to fix this for many years. And I've been on the State Central Committee since 2007, and there's not a year that we haven't tried to do it. As I said, the most important role is the precinct chair, and that goes to the training. It's getting blue in here. That goes to training, and some of our counties have been very good at that, and some haven't. And I've seen just different terms of leadership that had more experience, that was able to share that experience in the instruction going forward. Those are some of them. Face-to-face discussions is the most important to me, because you get to look in my eyes, and I get to look in your eyes as a caucus attendee. Like my literature says, the most important person in this whole process is the caucus attendee, because they go forward and make decisions. They elect delegates, they elect candidates, they go out and they encourage primary voters. So that's what I think about those things. One thing I want to say is that the signature candidates, they're not evil. They're doing something different. I don't support that route, but we have that route. But I think a signature candidate, they normally hire people to go get the amount of signatures that they need. And that voids the whole discussion, that face-to-face that we were talking about. So I'm very strong in the caucus process. I like to refer to it as the convention. Because when we go to the convention, that's when everyone has a chance to listen and talk and vote. It's actually one of my very favorite activities ever. So I was a candidate in 2008. I wouldn't dream of going through the signature process at this point in time. I went through the convention, and I lost by 2 votes, and that was okay. It was such a great experience, and I continued on my path to serve in the party. So you will never, probably never see me ever be a signature candidate, because I probably won't run for office again, and I probably would never use a signature unless that's the only path we ever had. So, I mean, you should look and see, do any of us here, are any of us signature candidates? Does it support the caucus process if we're a signature candidate? I don't know, we should check those. I definitely support caucus process.
What can I say? Many years ago, there was a young man that was the voting district chairman in a small voting district in Ogden, Utah. And we met in a home. And to start it off, we turned in KUED TV. And they told us from the state office what we needed to do, how to do it, and so forth. We need to get back to basics with the caucus system. That young man was me. Later, through some fate, I was elected Weber County chairman. And we need to get back to helping people, number one, understand, facilitating their attendance to the caucus system. And Phil had a good idea. Change it to a night when they can come. We need to communicate with them, facilitate what they do, and invite them, and make sure when they get there, they have a good time. Thank you.
I firmly believe we don't have a caucus problem. We have an awareness problem. Utah, the median age in Utah is 29.2 years old. We're the youngest state in America. You think that 29-year-olds in Utah are talking about caucuses? When I look in the audience, I don't see a 29-year median. We have an awareness problem, except for Lane here. Okay, he's the exception. The caucus, the only purpose of the caucus is not to elect candidates. That is one of the benefits of having a caucus. A caucus is an opportunity for communities to come together in precincts and discuss and counsel about the issues facing us as a party. There's great wisdom in doing that. It keeps us connected as a base. That is not something that Colorado and Nevada do as well anymore. I know that because I've attended a caucus in Nevada. Okay. Second is it gives us the opportunity to determine which talent should represent us as a party. And as a party, we've become, we have fallen off the path a little bit, and we have mistakenly assumed that our identity comes from the caucus. Our identity comes from our platform, and the caucus is an opportunity to promote that. And so how can we invite those around us to learn about the caucus when there's no materials to provide or source to direct them to? Without a functioning website for the state party, how can you have people coming into this state? We're the fastest growing state in America. How can you tell them about a caucus when our website doesn't work? Wouldn't it be great to say, go to utahgop.com and you can see how a caucus is run. Here are some of the things that you'll find. We need to be more inclusive. We're not. That's why the demographic of unaffiliated voters in Utah is skyrocketing right now. It's because people are leaving our party because it's not inclusive. And so we need to open our doors, make this a lively event, and we need to convene people through technology. We've talked about it for years. No one in leadership has done this, and I've heard about it for 12 years since being a state delegate. And so this is low-hanging fruit that's affordable that we can begin doing immediately, and we can't waste any more time.
I left my watch at home, so I have to use my phone to check the time. Okay. So a lot of our delegates came here with the idea of being able to come up to the microphone, so this will be our last pre-prepared question. And I'm going to exercise my discretion and skip us to the very last one on the sheet. So this is from Robert Adams from Provo 27, and he emphasizes specific answers, please. Part 1, how will you unite the party? Part 2, how will you expand Republican voter registration numbers? And Part 3, how will you expand our donor base?
So we have a 5-part question. I will admit when the lights started going down and the disco ball came on, I was getting nervous because I didn't come here to dance and you don't want to see me dance. So thanks for fixing that, Keith. Okay, how will you unite the party? Every one of these questions for me is going to have the same answer. It's what I've been saying my entire campaign: promote the platform. Because when you promote the platform, you bring more people together. You energize the base. You get people excited when they say, yes, I believe this too. I've had many neighbors who moved here from other states that knew nothing about our caucus system. But when they attended and they started finding out what we believed, they would say, well, I believe that too. Yeah, I believe that too. I guess I am a Republican. So if we promote our platform, that's the easiest way to unite the party. If you look at what's happening on a national level, we have division throughout our entire country, and it started with the Obama administration. Their whole concept was to conquer and divide, and that feeling is all across our country right now. We're seeing all kinds of groups in our country dividing into their own little cliques and fighting with others. It's not a unique thing to the Utah Republican Party. And when you have a deliberative body, they're always going to disagree. That's kind of the purpose, is to come up with different thoughts and ideas until you can rally around something you all have in common. And again, if we rally around our platform, it's so much easier to solve our problems when we focus on what we have in common first. So that's my answer to how you will unite the party. That's also my answer to how you will expand Republican voter registration numbers. The next question, or the part, how will you expand our donor base and make it more reliable? For too many decades, we've depended on big money donors to come in. We've had a handful of them, and I appreciate these people. They've done a lot of good for the party. But the problem is, that's how you run a club. That's not how you run an organization. No church is run that way. Churches, how are they run? From the bottom up, tithing. Everybody gives a little bit. That's how you strengthen an organization. I have proposed a specific plan I call the 5x5 plan. And it's real simple. We have 700,000 registered Republicans in Utah. If just 5% of those Republicans gave $5 a month, we would have over $2.1 million per year to fund all of our counties and the state party. People will say, oh, Phil, 5%, that's way too much. Okay, let's drop it to 1%. Right now, our party the last 4 years has had an average budget of about $327,000. If we had 1% of Republicans donate $5 a month, we would have over $420,000 a year, about $100,000 more than we have now. But the problem is, not only do we not ask, we don't take advantage of technology, and people don't know how they can get involved. Too often people think the only way to get involved is to do what you're doing, to be a delegate. But not everybody has the time or the desire to be a delegate. But they have other talents and things that we don't access as a party. We heard over here talking about our website. We have many talented people who have these expertise and skills to improve things we have at our party. But if we don't ask, we don't get. So to me, there are some simple things we can do. A couple more things. The Utah Republican Party has what's called a national committee man and a national committee woman. You know what their primary responsibility is? It's to raise money. Yet the last 2 years, our chair has ignored those two people, Thomas Wright and Anne-Marie Lampropoulos. Two of the most well-connected people in the RNC are not even being utilized to help raise funds for our party. I was on the phone with the RNC last week, 2 weeks ago, and they were telling me about an incredible fundraising program that's being implemented in 49 states. Guess which state isn't doing it? There are so many things we can do from the ground up, from the grassroots. They're not hard, and it allows everybody to participate at whatever level works for them. Okay, I talked too much. The last part of this is how will you, is that rescue special interest? What is the word?
How will you reduce
Oh,
special
that says
interest
if time.
influence in the
I
party?
took up way too much time. I'm sorry. That was if time. Go to this.
How will you unite the party? Well, what makes me a Republican is in the last plank of our platform, we affirm the infinite worth of all individuals and seek the best possible quality of life for all. I have found that to not be the case many times, and especially as a Hispanic Republican, it has been very difficult in the state, and I have yet for the Republican Party to reach out to me, and I want to see that change. It starts with each of us, and we need to look into each other's eyes and say, you are important, because we are the foundation, the strength of this Republican Party. We, each of us, everyone that takes the time to vote and represent their part in our country is going to be the success. And your vote is valuable. Each person is valuable. Your voice is important, and I want to hear that. I want to hear what your concerns are. So as far as uniting, the first thing to do is just to love one another. And that starts by example, and it starts right here. And that will be an example in itself of expanding our Republican numbers. I know. I go to church in a Spanish-speaking ward. They are ready, willing. They want so desperately to know more about the Republican Party because of who I am, how I live. They're so supportive of me. And they probably aren't even citizens yet. I had one member come up to me and tell me, because of who you are and how you live, I know you're a Republican. I know you supported Trump. I still have his sticker in my car. But she says, I want you to know I am going back to my country. I'm going to come back in 10 years. I'm here illegally, and I want to be a citizen of your country. And so our example will speak loudest in how we recruit Republicans. Because my parents were Democrats. And I have seen the division. I have lived it. My own daughter didn't speak to me November 8th, 2016, for 2 years. But we stand strong for what we believe in. And it is our example that will bring back our Republicans.
All right, I'll try to speak fast. There's a lot to unpack there. So the first part was bringing about unity, right? We don't have unity right now because we don't have trust in the body. So I will bring servant-based principles of leadership to the position of the state party chair. The chairman of the party is similar to that of the CEO of a corporation. The chairman / CEO is the figurehead. He's the one that he or she's the one that will set the tempo, create a vision, create a mission, and then lead that by example. So it's okay to have dissent and debate. That's what we're supposed to do in the party, have a free marketplace of ideas. But we have to do so inside a culture of safety where it's safe to disagree with each other. Right now it's not safe to do that. There's no trust. But having clear rules, and then of course having compromise. At the end of the debate, there has to be compromise. So the key to unity is trust. So as the next state party chair, I would do quite a bit as the leader, as the figurehead, to cultivate more culture of safety, more culture of trust. Back to the donor question, Phil's got the right idea in terms of monetizing the party. There's a ton of brand influencers. I mean, this is the new smart economy, right? You can get on YouTube, you put out content, right? And then you get subscribers. In our case, that would be registered Republicans or voters, right? And then you monetize your content, right? Everybody pays a little, $2 a month, $3 a month. The only problem is we're not putting out content that anybody wants to pay for, right? We're a divided party. We're lots of infighting. We have bad brand image right now. We have bad branding. And so as the next state party chair, I would do quite a bit to rebrand us. I am what they call a Ziennial, right? I'm 39, so I'm the youngest of the Gen X. I got skipped. All the boomers like Phil are courting all the millennials, and they've crapped all over all of us Gen X people. Okay. Kara's sort of in the same boat. We're the Ziennials, but it's the Gen X and the Gen Y, or excuse me, Gen Y and Gen Z. Gen Y are millennials. It's interchangeable. The oldest millennials now are 38. They're just as big a demographic as the boomers. Okay, so it's an important voting base. It's an important donor base. We need to make the Republican Party hip and cool, and do so in a way, without compromising the platform of the values. And I feel that I have enough of that demographic experience to make that happen, to rebrand the party so that we can monetize and get $5 subscriptions from Republicans. And Utah's an extremely young state. We're sort of a victim of our own success. So there's 60,000 people moving here every year. 23,000 of them came from California in 2016 alone. A lot of them are Democrats, and it is the way it is, right? A lot of Democrats are moving here because it's an awesome place to live. But that's an opportunity. Look, I'm in Park City. There's a ton of Democrats up there. In fact, most of Park City is owned by Californians. Those are second homes. But I talked to a lot of these Democrats that have left California, and a lot of them are like closet libertarians. They're ready to leave behind some of that mental illness that is become the Democrat Party. And it's just a matter of rebranding and remessaging, and I think we can start conquesting some of those Democrats that are moving here, but the party has to be organized, it has to have its act together, and we have to be ready with a plan to be reaching out to these 60,000 people. And there are ways to do it. There, like Aaron mentioned, there's a lot of cheap tech that we can utilize, a lot of low-hanging fruit to do that, to remessage, rebrand, get the message out to not only Democrats that are coming here, but to all the young people that are coming here. Salt Lake County has 50% of the mortgages in Salt Lake City are owned by millennials, right? And the national average is 9%. We have a very, very young crowd, like Aaron was saying, it's 29 years old. So rebranding will be huge. And basically that, back to the donor question, is it needs to be coming from the grassroots. If you guys don't want lobbyists and special interests and big money dictating party politics, well, then everybody's got to give a little, right? Because when billionaires are writing $100,000 and $200,000 checks, rightfully so, they get a little bit more say. And so all of you can take that power back by donating a little bit. And we as leadership need to give you something of value in exchange for that money as well.
Okay, I'm going to go backwards if I could, and I'm going to talk about donating. So I have been talking to everyone I talked to on the phone, everyone that I've been able to have these types of meetings with. I've been talking about the $1 effect, just $1. Phil wants 5. I only want 1, but you can give 5. I encourage 5. 5 is great. But I've been talking about $1. With the amount of registered Republicans we have in this state, if every registered Republican gave $1, imagine if you had 6 kids and you decided, I'm a Republican, I'm going to give $1 for each child too. But anyway, if you gave $1 to your state party and $1 to your county party, imagine that you would have, Bill, you said 700,000? I thought we were in 600,000s. So we would have about $600,000 to operate our party. This is part of our problem. We, at this point, depend on our elected leaders to fund the party. We just got a donation. We expect that. We need those donations, but we expect it to come from the wrong direction. And what do you have then? The candidates aren't being held accountable to the party. The party needs to fund the candidates. We need to support them as well. And without the $1 from every registered Republican, we don't have that opportunity. Now you have to watch out for some of those federal dollars and things like that we have to be careful for. But as far as in your county and using it for our state candidates, we're good. So the other thing is increasing the voter registration. We have to give a reason for people to want to be a Republican. And one of those reasons, and the most important thing that we can do, is to get into the grassroots, right? It's what we can do. We have to have a messaging campaign as well. We used to have those. Republican for a reason. Vote your values. Vote Republican. There were several, I just forgot what I was going to say. There were several lingo type of comments, slogans that we had that gave like, oh yeah, that's a good reason. Yeah. Okay, so Republican for a reason is a good one. One of the things, I'm just going to go back to the precinct real quick, because I think we can increase the voter registration when we discuss issues. We discuss party policy stuff up here because we're dealing with it on a broad basis. But when you're in your precinct, you talk about the platform. We've had those comments, but I'm going to tell you the experience, and I think I'm able to save some Republicans from leaving our party. Do you know we have not updated our platform since 2009? We need to have a discussion. We're turning people away. I don't mean we need to radically change it, but we need to take a look at it. If we have that discussion in our precincts, people will understand why to come and why to be Republican. Another thought we can have is we can talk about which path in this new law that we want to follow. Find out in your precincts. Maybe they want to go to a direct primary. Maybe they want to still keep the convention process. Let's ask our people what they want to do. Let's also help them to understand the differences. Uniting. I've been told for many years that I am a uniter. I've been told for many years that I'm the person that will come in and be nice to anybody. When you have a party that has a candidate for president, and we have people out in public and they are telling people they're not going to vote for our president, it causes a natural divide. I'm not saying who's right, I'm not saying who's wrong. I'm saying it causes a divide. When you have, I think it was like 23% voting for Evan McMullen, who no one really knew, versus our national candidate, I attempted to help with that and attempt to help our Republican president get elected in the fact that I went on a speaking circuit with some other really good dedicated Republicans, and there's one actually in this office, right here, Nate. And we went around the counties and we spoke to voters and we told them why. And what I told them why to vote for our Republican president is because he has a platform that he is held to. And I pulled up reasons, pulled up his campaign platform, and I pulled up our state platform, and it was very similar. I just picked a couple issues and we talked about it. How do we increase? We support our national Republican presidential candidate together. We do that. And then we're able to get $1. Thank you.
Well, I guess it's my turn again. I'm tempted to just say amen, but I'm not going to. Last caucus system, they came to me and said the chairman of our caucus or precinct doesn't want to have anything to do with it again. Would you conduct the meeting? So I said yes. When I got there were 3 other people that said they had been asked to conduct the meeting. That's not very good organization. But the worst part is our precinct covers most of 2, I was going to say LDS wards, but it's not LDS anymore, it's Latter-day Saint wards. And only 8 people from our ward showed up. Most of the people there were from the other ward. Of course, they voted in all the people, and that was okay. And I was elected as an alternate state delegate. And before the convention, remember the last convention we had a year ago or so, the chairman, who was the state delegate, called me and said he couldn't attend and asked me if I could go as the alternate. Well, the rules say that if you call in an alternate, the alternate then becomes the state delegate. To this day, even though I attended that convention and was given a credential, to this day, I'm not listed as a state delegate, even though legally I am. We have a communication problem, we have an administrative problem, and we have an operational problem. Now, fundraising. I've been working on a fundraising program that's in the works for 2 years. During my years of interviewing people on the story to tell, I interviewed a couple of people who were connected with some high-level entertainers. And we're almost to the point where we've got them committed to do it. When this works out, and I say when because I believe it will, not if, the state party will receive $500,000 a year. The local parties that will divide up another 500,000. And the other 500,000 will go to me. I'm just kidding. Will go to the people that actually perform. This is reality. We need creativity, administration, operation, and most importantly, communication. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Chadwick mentioned something very important. He mentioned the CEO. I hope that as delegates, when we're vetting candidates, we look for candidates who have managed budgets, who are financially savvy, and who have run organizations. Merely being passionate about our platform is not a qualifier for party office. I run a $10 million business in Asia. And as our general manager, I oversee 17 countries. It is extremely difficult for me to get 14 languages, multiple ethnicities and cultures to come together at the same table and us make a strategic decision as an organization. But that's what leadership is. So how will we unite the party? Well, the chair and the vice chair need to demonstrate leadership by working in conjunction with the SEC. And the very first meeting of the year should be a strategic planning meeting. What strategic initiatives are we going to focus on this year that will give us direction? What will our fundraising goals be? How do you manage what you can't measure? You can't as an organization. You can't analyze the health of an organization. And I got to say, we're $100,000 in debt. That's how healthy we are right now. And we preach fiscal responsibility. So how do you unify a party? You stop the infighting, you create direction, and you exhibit leadership. It has to be like that. And right now, I don't feel like we have leadership doing that. Look at the results. Hence the reason so many delegates are no longer going to run anymore, and so many precinct chairs are no longer interested. And again, the unaffiliated voter population is skyrocketing in Utah. No one wants to affiliate with a party that's disorganized and lacks vision. I was selected by the White House because I signed up 10,000 people to vote in Utah. I went and spoke on C-SPAN at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce because I signed up 10,000 people. You want to increase voter registration? You work with the Utah Student Association and the Commissioner of Higher Education. If we are truly a party that cares about our future, we'll start focusing on investing in the future. Our college students. And if we can do those two things, then the money will follow as a result. But you can't merely just expect people to give money, $1 or $5 a month. They need to know how to give it. We no longer use snail mail to make donations. We need a PayPal account, and we need to give delegates options on how they can choose to invest their money in the party, whether that be funding the state convention, funding candidates, or funding operations. None of that exists because we don't have a website that works. So as you're making this decision as delegates, I plead with you to think about the operational aspects of our organization. The platform is great, but if we don't have the systems and processes in place to adequately promote it, we're doing ourselves a disservice. Thank you.
I'm going to take exception to Chadwick's comment. I'm actually a millennial, but that's all. That small detail, small detail. So how many of you, by raise of hand, are familiar with our State Central Committee? So not quite a year ago, we had a vacancy in the vice chair position, and 21 people ran to be the new vice chair. I was one of those 21. You talk about being able to unite people. How easy do you think it is to bring 188 people together on the State Central Committee and get them to vote for you? I did that. And when talking to the State Central Committee members who voted for me and asked them, why did you do that? The responses that they gave me were, you're fair, you understand the rules, you don't delve into personalities, you stand by principles. That's what our party needs. Leadership that will stick to the principles, that will play by the rules, and that will be transparent all the time. We all need the same even playing field. As a basketball official, I understand that very well. The rules are to be followed. We're going to stand up for what's right, and we're not going to yell at the coaches. We don't yell back. We keep our cool all the time. And I do the same thing as the vice chair of the state party. That's the kind of leadership that will help the party heal. And if you have been paying attention the last year, I think some of you may agree there has been a definite change in the State Central Committee and our state party as a whole. That will continue if I'm reelected. How do you expand the Republican voter registration members? A couple weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, we had our first in the last several years Hispanic town hall. That to me is huge. We have not been doing outreach to our minorities, to our college Republicans, to our TARs. That has to start now. I don't care if they vote with us right now on election day. We want that. But we're not asking them to be Republicans on election day. We're asking them to be Republicans every day. And they have to start understanding what the platform is, why they want to be a Republican. It has to have value to them. And it's through our town halls and our outreach that we have started, and I hope to see them continue regardless of who's elected as your new leadership. My hope is that they will continue those outreach programs and those town halls. We need to start going into the communities and talking to people and listening to them. We do too much talking, honestly. We need to start listening to every Republican and every possible Republican, because everybody is a potential Republican, right? And everybody probably is a Republican if they really stop and think about it. Everybody wants freedom. Everybody believes that they should be able to become as good as they try to be. We've got to let them know that that is going to happen under our party. The last thing on here is the donors. I agree with what's been said up here. I don't want to take up too much more time to expand on what's already been talked about. It has to come from the grassroots. If you don't want it to come from big corporations, you have to step up to the plate. Thank you.
Okay, I've been informed by the cameraman that our Facebook Live feed is good to continue, so I apologize that we've gone late. We worked pretty hard to get the live feed set up, and that took a lot more time than we anticipated. Those of you that need to go, by all means go, and I apologize sincerely if you were not able to get around to asking your questions. So I've got the microphone right here. Just come up and grab it from me, and those of you that have to leave the soonest, please try among yourselves to go in the order of your own expediency. The floor is now open. You ask the questions, the candidates will answer.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Kelly Strebel. I'm from Sandy 67. My question is, and this has been asked by people in my neighborhood, regarding the more recent and even previous, I would say, videos that have been put out in relation to the executive sessions. Their question is, and they would like to know how you guys feel about this being put out and what you would do with members who violate these rules that we have in place. A lot of it has to do with the fact that this is being put out in a way to expose the party more in a negative way than it is a positive way. Some of the suggestions from my neighborhood have been to seek restraining orders, maybe have these people removed from the SCC. So they've asked me to ask you what you would do about it.
I would want to know why. I would want to know the circumstances. I think getting information is vital. We can't make snap decisions. I think it's important to know the details. That concerns me greatly, that somebody would be kicked out of a meeting if unless they were breaking the law. Rules are made to be obeyed, and laws must be obeyed also. I will hold people accountable for breaking those rules. I'm not afraid to do that. Last year I had to have my son arrested. He's a heroin addict. And it's why I am fighting so hard to keep our president in office and reelected. It is important that we follow the rules, but I want to know details first before I would make a decision.
So, as a former intelligence operative at the federal level, this question kind of goes to my area of expertise. So, holding many secret security clearances above top secret security clearances, I've worked in NSA buildings. Security is definitely a big deal. When we go in, when the Central Committee goes into executive session, it's to maintain confidentiality and maintain privileged information that's not meant to be broadcast. Obviously, the systems that we have to protect our intelligence agencies are very high tech. For instance, we're not allowed to have cell phones anywhere in the building. Every 5 feet, there were detectors that could detect any type of electromagnetic device. So there are more cost-effective, low-tech techniques to maintain executive privilege in these meetings. But I feel like President Trump a little bit on my Syria plan while he's campaigning, like, well, it's a secret, you know what I mean? Like, there are things that can be done. I wouldn't divulge those now, but as the chairman, when the Central Committee goes into executive session, believe me, there are things that I know how to do as a former intelligence operative to maintain the confidentiality of that information, and I would do that post-haste.
So I'm extremely familiar with this situation that you're referring to, and it's actually happened every time we've gone to executive session. And you think that we had that fixed, but our last meeting, someone hid a camera somewhere up on a side somewhere and did it again, and then released it. You know, Republicans, we need to be personally responsible. And people that have chosen to give footage to individuals who want to do it on a broadcast, they have caused irreparable damage to this Republican Party in the state of Utah. When you have that footage being used and sent to over 465,000 registered voters, at least claimed to be, and then we saw an effect where we had low attendance at our last caucuses, which is just right after the first time we had the leak of an executive session. I've never seen that before in our Republican Party. This is the only cycle I've ever seen that an executive session would be leaked and that there would be no repercussions for that. I've stood and asked for repercussions, but there's been none. Why do we go into executive session? I'm sitting right here on this stage. We went to executive session. The attorney of the party said and suggested to the chair, we need to go into executive session because we're going to talk about sensitive legal matters. I supported that we went into executive session because we were talking about and strategizing. We don't need other people to know that. So the effect is that it literally has caused so much division, and it's taken our Republicans and made them think about how we fight. If you truly sat in a Central Committee meeting, this state Central Committee meeting, in this room here on December 16th, 2017, you would know it was probably the best ever meeting that was conducted, and we thoroughly conducted business. You know what else we did? Well, we were told, everyone was told that we were being radicals and doing things, but we saved this party from bankruptcy. And I'm so thankful for those people that signed a letter to call a meeting so we could save this party from bankruptcy. We didn't do anything bad. We didn't do anything facetious. We were working hard to save this organization. So I commend the State Central Committee for all the efforts they did, and I do not appreciate and I condemn the actions. I'll be the first officer to say that. I condemn the actions of those who would take our private communications and publicize them. That's all I need to say.
When I worked as the chief financial officer for a company down in California, you've heard of California, that third world country to west of Nevada. I was a vice president in charge of finance. We had a meeting every single Monday that started at 8 o'clock in the morning and ran till after 6. And one day, one of the other vice presidents brought in a cartoon. You bicentennials will remember the Wizard of Id in the funny papers. The wizard was talking to the king one day, and the king said, you know, I'm mean to my subjects. I tax them heavily. Some of them I have killed. Why don't they overthrow me? And the wizard said, you don't hold any meetings. Now, back to the thing at hand. I was at that meeting that they're talking about, the executive session that went into executive session, or executive, anyway. And they kicked me out, rightly so. But for all you people who are complaining about someone recording it, you could go out and stand outside by the wall and hear everything that went on. So it's a management problem. But back to the point, someone should not be recording those meetings. Someone, if they do, should not propagate it, publicize it. But it shouldn't be done. There are legal reasons in Utah to hold executive sessions. Any board, they're limited to that. And they don't include some of the things we think we need to go into executive session for. And this is one of the things we need to do. Be open, communicate, understand, and help other people know that we have their best interests at heart. Thank you.
Trust is defined as both character and competence. If you have a leader who has high character but no competence, then you don't trust that leader. Conversely, if they have high competence but no character, you don't trust that leader. So you must have the culmination of character and competence to have trust. And so when executive sessions are in order and there is a recording, it's because there's a lack of trust within the organization, and that seems to permeate throughout the Republican Party. I believe in transparency. There are sensitive legal issues, fiduciary responsibilities that need to be discussed. That is part of the role of a leader in any organization. However, it is that leader's same responsibility to afterward then return and report the appropriate information back to the body. Even if it's such as, today we met, and I want you as a member of our party to know that there was an executive session called and the following items were discussed. We cannot communicate the details of our discussion, but it's important that you stay informed and know that the following discussions happened. Communication. We lack the ability to communicate with delegates. And so one of the initiatives that I will put forth as a vice chair is to call a communications and technology committee. I believe it was Phil who said this. There is an abundance of talent within our base. 4,000 state delegates who all have various occupations and experiences and different skills. All are hungry to be involved. We can create a platform where communication is streamlined and efficient. But again, until we have these tools to help manage the organization, trust will not be restored.
So we have a technology committee currently serving the SCC, and I think something that we need to do is give them more resources to better equip our meetings so that we don't have these kinds of intrusions. I don't know who set up the camera, but it's not that difficult to have the technology committee go through and sweep a room before, if we're going to have executive session. I don't know why we don't do that. It's something that people talk about doing. We just need leadership that will make sure that those things happen next time. As far as when that does happen, I want to say that it's imperative to me that we know without a shadow of a doubt of who that person is. We cannot start casting blame on individuals that are innocent. I don't want to see the party coming out and saying, I think it was this person or I think it was that person. That will destroy the party even further. If we don't have our facts straight on who is doing this, we cannot take action. We need to be very, very careful in these circumstances, and the best foot forward I see is to ensure that they don't happen ever again. And then we will not have that problem going forward, and we don't have to worry about trying to remove or kick people out of our party. We want to bring people in and not kick them out. Yes, we need to use our technology committee to ensure that we don't have recordings going out. And it's an easy safeguard, easy solution to our current problem.
I've had the privilege of serving in the party for about 20 years, and this is the first time, as Lisa mentioned, the first time I've ever seen this type of issue happen. And it makes the hair stand on the back of my neck to think that we need to sweep a room for security. That's just foreign to me. We're Republicans. We should work together. If people truly understand the purpose of an executive session, it's not only to discuss sensitive party issues, but it's to protect the integrity and character of an individual who might be part of the discussion. So even our state legislature has executive session. All the time, every session, they have executive meetings where the public, the media, no one else can be there because they have sensitive issues to discuss. So people need to understand the reason for it. It's not that the party is trying to be secretive. It's not that they're trying to keep the rest of the party from not having transparency. It has nothing to do with transparency. It has everything to do with protecting the integrity of the individual who might be under a discussion. That's the purpose. The reason, I think your question is, how do you hold someone accountable? Unfortunately, our Constitution and bylaws are silent on the issue of accountability of somebody releasing something in an executive session. This is a bylaw proposal that needs to come from the body on how do you deal with somebody who violates an executive session. We talk about kicking people out of the party. I look at it differently. If there's a rule that says if you do this, this, and this, you are no longer a member of the party, are you being kicked out of the party, or are you voluntarily giving up your membership because you broke the rules that were written? That's how I look at it. It's not kicking someone out of the party. It's holding someone accountable to rules that unfortunately we don't have. So I think that hopefully our next SCC group will consider this, or any state delegate can propose a change to our bylaws that would hold someone accountable for doing something like this. My biggest concern is how it impacts the individual. And most of the executive sessions I participated in had to do with a discussion about an individual. So we have to be careful, we have to be vigilant, and people do have to be held accountable, but right now we have nothing to hold anyone accountable. Can I make a suggestion, considering the hour? And if everyone disagrees, that's fine. Would it be okay if we just ended with like some 1-minute statements? Because it's 10 minutes to 9, and some people might want to leave. I just thought maybe you could propose that to the audience.
I was actually about to ask you guys if you how you would feel about more questions, but as I look at the faces of the delegates, my vision of this event was to have an equal amount of time for delegate questions, but I do understand the late hours, so I'll just derive my answer from the looks on your faces. Are you all okay with just going ahead and having closing statements? I'll take that as a yes, so all right. We'll just have closing statements starting with Chadwick.
I personally prefer Q&A. Just giving constant canned statements doesn't really tell you guys anything. It just gives you a lot of highfalutin platitudes. I love Q&A, by the way. Look, there's a lot of good topics that were covered tonight. There's a lot of good ideas that were espoused by all the candidates. Look, we need all hands on deck right now as a Utah GOP. Again, I'm thinking a little bit more 50,000 foot. I'm thinking more international, national. But the Constitution's in shreds. You know, I feel like Utah is. I mean, I moved here. I'm staking everything on this place. All right, this is why I'm getting involved. I think Utah can save the Republic and save the Constitution, and it's going to be Republican leaders that do it. And so the Utah GOP needs to get its act together, and that's why I'm running. I think I'm the most neutral candidate that can bridge the divide between all the various factions and bring everybody together through that culture of trust, which will then manifest the unity that we need to drive forward. We don't have a lot of time. May 4th until nominating conventions next year, big 2020 re-election, we don't have a lot of time. So Guys like Phil and Sylvie and Derek, they're all strong Republicans. They all have, they're all very good in certain areas. I'm going to need all those guys right where they're at as state party chair to put this party back together. So come May 4th, we got a lot of work to do. Thank you.
You forgot about me. So you're going to need me there too. That goes along with what I'm about to say. So there's no question that I'm the most qualified person to be the secretary at this point in time. I have the most amount of knowledge of the understanding of the checks and balances in our organization. And I've seen through 2 administrations and all of them before how the party functions. I am excited to get back to the normal way that we function as a party. The way that we have our central committee meetings, the respectful manner in which all members are treated. I am very excited for that time. I would like to serve with those people because I think that my talents and my abilities to be able to foster relationships actually will complement any of these chair candidates or vice chair candidates. The treasurer, well, he's by himself, he's got it. And he's a great guy, and I'm excited to work with all of them. So I ask for your support, and I also ask you to tell others of Lisa that you know. Thank you.
My name is Lane Rano, and I ask for your vote at the convention. Thank you for coming tonight. It's been a pleasure visiting with you. And I'll just say, amen. Let's make Utah a true Republican state. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Entrata for hosting us. Very nice of Dave Bateman and all the candidates, and certainly you delegates for showing up tonight. Our problems as a party are organizational, not political. We need someone who can convene people and facilitate conversation so that we can win races. The whole point of a party, the purpose of a party, is to win races. We lost 4 races, 4 state races, a congressional race, and many rural county races last year in Utah. We're $100,000 in debt. Again, we need to solve our organizational challenges, and by re-electing people who have contributed or who've been involved in the problems is not going to solve this. We need new perspective and leadership who can do what I've just described. I'm asking for your vote next week. Please stop by my booth and shake my hand. I'd love to speak with you again. Thank you.
I want to echo what's been said about neutrality. I think that is a key element that our party needs. We need leadership who will listen to everybody and not take sides, but just stick to the principles and our platform and our goal and task of making sure that our party is strong, that we elect strong Republican leadership, and that we move forward. But something else we also need to keep in mind is we need experience. We do not want to keep turning people over and keep moving on to new people who don't have the experience and the relationship with our state party officers and with our elected officials and with our particular SCC. That rapport matters. It matters who you vote for because they will reflect what your values are. And I hope that as we get to know each other better the next few days, our values seem to match more. I appreciate your time and coming out. Thank you.
Again, Andrew, thanks for putting this together, and thanks to each of you for coming out. My name's Phil Wright. I'm running for state party chair. I believe with the candidates that are running for chair, I do believe I'm the most qualified. In the last 6 years, I've been a chair or a vice chair 5 times. Some of the things I didn't mention, I was the Utah chair for the Ted Cruz presidential campaign, where through grassroots effort, we were able to get 70% of all the Utahns' votes. Grassroots is how we solve our problems. I am not neutral. I've always taken a side. I've taken a side with our platform. Neutrality is what happens to the dead roadkill who stand in the middle and don't make a decision. So I think it's important that we decide who we are and what side we're going to be on. I'm on the side of our platform. I'm on the side of the Utah Republican Party. I don't have a problem taking a stand and defending the principles that we believe in as Republicans. But I can also do that while building relationships. We hear a lot about building bridges. You can build all the bridges you want, but unless you cross that bridge and join hands with the person on the other side, that bridge is useless. I have a proven record of doing that. I've done that in my county, I've done it in the state, and I've done it on a national level. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to be considered for chair, And I hope that this Saturday I can get your vote. Phil Wright for chair of the Utah Republican Party. My website is votephilwright.com, and I spell Phil with 2 L's. If you go to the other one, you're going to meet some other dude who has no idea why people keep asking why he's running for state party chair.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. I talked about my daughter. We reconciled about 2 months ago when I found out that her husband had been sent on tour to Iraq, and he will be home any day. And we are rejoicing in the reunion of being a family again. And I want you to drive safely home and hope to see you Saturday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. And by my original count, just a visual, we had about 80 delegates come and about 30 still remain. So your service is deeply appreciated. Thank you all the candidates, and have a good night.